Go ahead and do it. It is straight talk food for the soul. And we are on tonight. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. We have a little lag there. We're trying to get a little technical issues done. We have a new guest tonight, Elder Takia Ogletree.
Was raised in Anniston, Alabama. I moved to Florida, Jacksonville, Florida for a while. And then I moved back to Alabama. And then I moved to Fayetteville, North Carolina, where I encountered domestic violence, of what we are going to speak on tonight. I have two girls. I'm married to a wonderful man of God, and thank God for him. And I have three beautiful grandbabies. And I'm excited to be here with you tonight.
All right. We're going to ask Elder Takia to pray us in and we're going to get started.
Father God, we thank you for tonight, oh God. We thank you for the minister on tonight, oh God. We thank you for the wisdom that she shares, oh God, all over the world. We thank you for the ministry, oh God. We thank you for healing, deliverance, oh God. We know that you're able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can ask or think, oh God. Let somebody be delivered on tonight, oh God. Let somebody find strength on tonight, oh God. Lord, tell them what to do, God. Tell them which way to go, oh God. We praise you, God. We glorify.
And tonight, we have some definitions and we have some. So we're going to jump in. We're going to do our scripture first. It's 1 Peter 3:7. Likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, showing honor to the woman as the weaker vessel, since they are heirs with you of the grace of life, so that your prayers may not be hindered. That is our scripture tonight. And now we're going to jump into our definitions. Our first definition tonight is domestic violence, typically involving the violent abuse of a spouse or a partner. And I'm going to turn it to Elder Takia because I've never encountered this. How do you feel about the definition?
When you've gone through domestic violence, the definition becomes a little more broad, and it becomes a little more personal because it's so much more than what people know. It's so much more than what people think. And if you have not encountered it, you're like, well, I thought domestic violence was just this right here. But it is so much bigger. And there's a different kind of domestic violence. It's different kind of abuse, I'll say it that way. So, yeah.
And because most of the time when I'm speaking, I've encountered the thing that I'm speaking about. And I guess this is a particular topic that I haven't, but I knew she had gone through because I had heard her testimony. And then as soon as I did, it's been over a year. We've been trying to do this, and now we finally have hit this moment. Our next one is mental pain. I have two definitions. The first one is deep sorrow, sadness, or depression. The second definition is intense distress, loneliness, and isolation. What do you think about those definitions?
They're pretty much self-explanatory. It pretty much sums it up. The isolation I can relate because that's the first thing. The first thing that your partner he starts to do, or she, because men get abused too. The isolation, they start pulling you from people you love. They start pulling you from things that you love to do. They start pulling you from how you feel about yourself and the things that make you feel better about yourself. And it starts with that self-esteem. They start breaking you down little by little. So yeah, I can relate to those definitions.
And I know this is a really sensitive topic. My questions are kind of penetrating, but we don't want it to be disrespectful. But if I don't ask the question and there is somebody watching or that will watch, if they don't hear the questions, they may not know what to do. So, Elder Taki, you just let me know. I guess I want to say, if I'm asking a question that might be offensive to a person who's going through, how can I say it better? Because we want this to be helpful to the person that sees this. And you already talked about the isolation, and that was one of my questions. If isolation is a tool that the abuser uses,
I've always seen myself as a strong woman, so a lot of people were shocked, and they're probably shocked now because I never really just tell my story, because God has delivered me from it. He's brought me out of it. So I really don't share it much. What happened in my situation, I didn't realize that I was being isolated at first. I was so close. You know how they say you so close to the forest that it kind of blinds your sight. You can't see. So it was more like he was charming at first. He spent a lot of time with me. He showered me with gifts. He did everything that I thought I wanted at the time. Money and cards and jewelry. And so I was spending so much time with this man, I didn't realize that I was even being pulled away from the things that I love to do. So that's what happened.
now that she explains it, I think it makes it easier to understand, because I have had somebody close to me who's dealt with it. And I always wondered when it was going on, why not just tell somebody?
Well, in my experience, I didn't tell anybody because I was so used to people looking forward to me failing. So when I moved from my small hometown and I moved to North Carolina, because that's where he was stationed, because he was in the military, and I was just so excited to be married. I was told I'll never be married. I was told I would never amount to anything. So when I got there, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell anyone. I just dealt with it because I didn't want to move back. And he knew that. See, what the abuser does, they'll learn a lot about you. They learn your triggers. They learn what you love. They learn how just everything about you. You're pretty much your personality and everything. And so that's what they use. So he was very strategic about how he handled me because I was so strong at that time. I was strong-headed at that time. And I wasn't a real soft woman at that time either. So it was kind of like he would tell me, "What you crying for? You so hard. Why you crying? You shouldn't even be crying right now." So I didn't share it with anyone, and I didn't get out of it because I didn't want to have to move back to be called a failure. So I stayed quiet and I didn't let anyone know that I was being abused.
Question. So, and we're not out in your family, and this is not a beat up session to families, because I tell my story quite often, because I didn't have those fuzzy relationships with my mom, my dad, brother, sister. So you're saying somebody in your family made you feel less than or didn't make you feel great, so you hid it.
Yes.
To somebody who's listening, somebody who will watch, don't allow the adversary how bad were the beatings?
I'm walking around with a scar now. Let's see. He burnt me. You see that scar? And it was so bad. The burn was so bad that I didn't even go to the hospital. I didn't go to the hospital because I wanted to cover it up. My auntie was a nurse when she was alive, and I went to my auntie because I knew it would stay quiet and people wouldn't know that it happened. So she dressed it up for me. She took care of me, and I pretty much still to this day kind of hide it. Most people I'm around don't even know that I'm walking around with certain scars and bruises on me because I cover it up so well. So it was really bad. It was really bad, and I took it because I kind of felt like some of it I deserved.
Mm.
I felt like I deserved because I wasn't always a good person. I had become bitter and angry because of other things that had happened in my childhood and in my life. So, and then I start retaliating. And so then when I felt like, okay, God, I want to change my life, I dealt with it because I was like, I'm being punished. So I took it.
She just made me cry. I have 8 girls. And I think it's such a sad place to be that you feel like you deserve for somebody to knock you in the head or burn you. That's a tough corner to be in. It's not digging too deep. What was it about your childhood that made you feel like you deserved it?
Being molested and raped at a very young age that people don't even know that I dealt with. I pretty much covered, and the reason I covered that part of my life was because of my family. I always wanted to protect my family. My grandfather was a pastor, my grandmother, first lady, a teacher, well known family. And I just swept it under the rug because, you know, I didn't want to embarrass my family. And I didn't want anyone to say, well, you shouldn't have done this or you shouldn't have done that. And so I had a family member who would always talk down on me. They would always tell me I wasn't good enough. They would always tell me I'll never get married. I'll never amount to anything. I'll never. So my whole life was based on trying to prove something. Although I would be toe up on the inside, on the outside, I wanted to appear to be something that I just really wasn't on the inside. And so a lot of my family members depended on me, so I had to be strong. And when I did try to talk to someone or break down, they'd be like, it was more like, you'll be all right. So I had to learn to be all right. You know what I'm saying? And even to this day, like I really try to like forget my past, but I know it affects some of my relationships now and not intentionally. I am a very, my family will tell you that. I give them the shirt off my back, the shoes off my feet, all my food, my money, whatever I could do to help people. I'm a giver. And people that my past it affects some of my relationships now, and I honestly intentionally do not try. You know, I don't try to be the way that I am. I was rejected a lot. I don't try to treat people that way, or I try to be open, but I don't want to. I've always had to move like this so I didn't step on anybody's toes. So it's kind of, people say let your past go and let. It's easy to say that when you didn't go through the child abuse, or when you didn't go through the rape, or when you didn't go through the molestation, or when you didn't go through getting beat, or when you didn't go through like men taking advantage of you, and other things happening. It's like you tell me, well, you need to just get rid of this. And sometimes it affects my relationships now. And it's not that I'm not healed or delivered. It's just sometimes I don't realize that I'm even doing it.
Mm. I'm going to say this because I understand what she's talking about, because I was molested as a kid. And I think would choose me, or a man would say a certain thing to me. I just didn't get it. And I was like, I had a scent or something. And I literally had to change my outside. And I changed the way I dressed and stuff. But on the inside, I hadn't really fixed that. And even now, every once in a while it does pop back up. I know I'm delivered. But I sit at a place, sometimes God lets me sit so I can have a conversation with somebody like you. And that commonality, we not playing no pity party and playing, victim tonight. There's no victim here. We just want to speak life into somebody who's there, and that there is hope and you can get out. I know they said this about domestic violence. We talking about childhood.
Believe it or not, your childhood, if you've gone through something in your childhood, it preps you. It preps you to go through something in your adulthood. And my background is counseling, and I went into counseling so I could help someone. And even the counseling from God, even the prayer and everything, like I don't talk about it because I don't want anyone to say, oh, she just want attention, or she just, she want to have this pity party, when I'm really supposed to be writing books about it just to help someone else get through it. But it's still that, what are people going to think? Who will I hurt in the process of exposing the things that happened to me? Because if it's brought to the forefront of what happened to you, then somebody else gonna be exposed, because they're gonna say, well, where was this person? Why this person didn't protect you? And where was this person? And what? But I hid it so well that they just didn't know. They didn't know.
Because I sort of have your story. I never molested me when the book that's coming, because it's coming. I just call him Mr. Ah. I've confronted him with somebody in an adult put me in front of him as a teenager and asked him, did he do it? Like he gonna say, yeah. Come on up to it. But when it's on your watch, the person that's watching it, that's why they doing that. Because they were like, why didn't I see it? Why didn't I catch it? all of us have to be accountable for what happens. You're accountable for your behavior now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But what they did, it is not our fault. And that bag of bricks we leave tonight, it's not our fault. We didn't do any, I don't care how I dressed or how Takia dressed, it was no excuse for that person to look at you that way. And did that ever, because of the molestation and the rape, cause you to be attracted to that kind of guy?
Like you said a minute ago, and just bear with me if I kind of
Take your time.
They sense it. It's a certain way you carry yourself and you don't even know it. It's a certain smell. It's a spirit, and it's that familiar spirit. And I can walk in a grocery store, I can walk in a store, and I still smell. I can still smell, and I know it may sound weird. I can tell when someone is a pedophile. I can sense it. I can tell when it's demonic. They don't have no respect for women. Like if someone is dating someone, I can talk to a person on the phone and I can tell you, no, that's not. You can bring them in my presence less than 5 minutes. I can tell you that's not the one. Because, and I feel like, people want to say, well, why God? Everybody want to blame God. But a lot of times we go through things so we can minister to other people and help them through what they're going through. But it really made me stronger. It really made me stronger. Myself, because my behaviors after all that were terrible. I was so angry. I was so aggressive. I fought at a drop of I fought in church. I fought at school. I fought on the bus. I fought grown people. I fought men. I was just fighting. And when I moved this way and came to the top, the one thing the overseer said to me, he said, it's kind of sound like The Color Purple. He said, you've been fighting all your life. He said, but you don't have to fight here anymore. And that just sticks with me. And when that spirit wants to raise up, I'll hear his voice saying, you don't even have to fight anymore. And I've always wanted to protect myself. I used to say things like, I'll never let anybody hurt me again. And you could say something to me or do something, and I would just attack you. It was bad. Because I was trying to protect myself from anything tragic happening like that to me again. But God will protect you.
But you're in a very successful marriage. How does that work?
Yes, thank God. It took a lot of preparation. I was engaged before I met my now husband. I still have the ring and everything. And he was a phony. He was a phony. And it was some good things about him, and God was just showing me. I felt like it was just another disappointment. But God was showing me, your husband is going to have this and even more. Your husband is going to be truthful. He's going to have the grace to deal with you. What people don't know, when I met my husband, I was still a hot mess. I was mouthy. I was mean. I had trust issues. The only person I ever trusted was my dad. The only man. And my granddad. Other than that, and my husband, he told me, he said, I knew you had issues when I met you. He said, but God keep telling me to hang in there with you. And he was going to leave me one day. And nobody know he was going to leave me. Because he said, you have trust issues, and he childhood, but he's laid back. And the thing that I love about him is he allows me to be me. And if I get too out of hand, he'll tap me. And that's what people don't know. They be like, he's so sweet. He's so laid back. Well, if I get him started, woo-wee, you'll see a side that you don't want to see. Because he's very straightforward and he's blunt. But he loves me through all of my flaws. And God will grace you for the part, because we all have flaws. We are going to still carry something that's not pleasing to God, or another person may not like. But when God connects you, it's a divine connection to the person that you're supposed to be with. They'll have that grace to deal with you. And he's helped change my heart. Yeah.
Question. Was there any sign with your former husband that he was violent before the marriage?
Yes. That I just wanted to be loved at that time. I was feeling like, oh, I'm getting old. I'm in my late 30s. What am I waiting on? My time is about to pass me by. And I had something to prove.
Mm.
And he was possessive. I was thinking it was love and we were just spending time. I wasn't spending any time with anybody anymore. He's consumed all of my time. And another sign that when they try to rush you, be very, very cautious. It's like the enemy, he'll go fast so he can get you in this situation so he can start peeling away from who you are. It was very fast. And I was saying, no, let's just wait to get married and you go on ahead to North Carolina and let me get something. And he was like, no, you going with me now. And I just went on. And I went on for the wrong reasons and I paid for that.
If there was a young woman, because when you graduate from high school, and I think African American young people are different than Jewish children, Spanish children, because a lot of them stay home, work in the business with their families. A lot of them move after marriage. Not saying that we can't be cohesive in good family, but our children graduate from high school and they so quick to want to get out the house. They turn 18, you want to get your own place, you want to do this, you want to do that. And I do that she really don't know.
Take your time. Time will reveal. If that man cannot wait, if that man cannot slow down, then you might need to take some time to yourself. Make sure you have a prayer life. Ask God for discernment. Ask him to take the blinders off of your eyes so you can see. Hey, God, ask God. I didn't even ask God. I said, this who I'm finna marry, and he gonna do this for me, and I'm finna get out of this little small town, and I'm finna do this, and I was not in the will of God. Get in the will of God, and he will show you everything. That's why I'm able to discern if another man is right for another woman. If I look at them like, sister, I'm gonna say run. And they may just be doing everything perfect and everything right, but I can pick it up. I can tell when that man is pretending. I can tell when they're not who they say they are. But just slow down. Slow down Listen to your family. My aunt, before she died, she said, baby, I was trying to tell you. She said, I set you at my kitchen table and told you he's not it, Tiki. My family called me Tiki. He's not it. My dad said, and I just thought my dad was just being a protective dad that he is. He was like, no, baby, he's not it. It's something about him. He kept saying, it's something about him. It's something about, and I just was not listening. But if your family, if your mom and your dad, even if you don't want to obey what they're saying because you feel you're grown, listen and slow down. That's my advice to that.
Walk us through that last, because you told me about that last time he almost killed you. Walk us through that day and what happened and how are you here now talking to me? Because it almost didn't happen that way. Walk us through it. I know it's gonna be painful. If you gotta breathe through it, take a second. We understand.
So whew, this was the last encounter. He was nitpicking all day. He just kept picking at me. Every time I would walk past him, he would pick at me. He would pick at me. What you doing? Are you trying to get out the house? And I didn't even really go anywhere. And he would be like, you trying to get out the house so another man can look at you? Or you trying to go to the mailbox so your neighbors can see? On a Sunday, I went to church and he went with me. And he said to me when we got home, I saw the preacher looking at you. I'm not even from North Carolina. I don't know these people. I didn't know those people. I didn't know the pastor. I didn't know anybody. I was raised up in the church. So I was just trying to find a church home. And he kept accusing me. I saw how the men were looking at you. I saw every time you walked past, and I was saying, baby, I don't know these people. Next thing you know, he hit me. When he hit me, we started fighting. We started tussling. He took a pillow and put that pillow over my face. And I could just feel myself like, I was saying to him, I can't die like this. I'm not going to die like this. I got too much to live for. I'm not going to die like this. And it was like I was just slowly going out. And I was saying, God, I was just calling on God, please. God, don't let him take me out. I got children, and I just can't go out this way. Please forgive me. I was begging God for my life. And he was on top of me with his knee in my stomach. And he had that pillow over, and I just couldn't breathe. And I said, God, please. And it couldn't have been nothing but God, because some kind of way he was flipped over me. I didn't have the strength for it. I promise y'all, I did not have the strength to flip him over me. But he was flipped over me, and it was like something had scared him. I still say to this day, it couldn't be nobody but God. And the way he ran out the back door, it was like he was running from something. He fled from something. And I'm still gasping, trying to get, my air back. And that was it for me. I almost lost my life that day. And people don't know that. And I called my friend who's in North Carolina, and then I called my dad. And by this time, I had already had my own apartment. I had got my utilities on. I was saving money on the side. And I had got jet. So my dad showed up, my youngest brother showed up, and my dad, he was furious. He had a U-Haul already, but I was telling my dad, hey, man, my children are going to move to this apartment. My dad told me, I see you in a casket.
Mm.
He said, I cannot leave you. If I leave you, this is going to be the last time I see you. He came from Alabama. He drove all day to get from Alabama to was so angry at him. And we walked around the house, and I left most of the things there because I just didn't even want it. I didn't even know where I was going because my dad was taking me back to Alabama. I had all my belongings and my other stuff in my new apartment that I was going to escape, and he would not leave me. I lost all that money. I lost things that I was putting in that apartment, and he said, it doesn't matter what you lose as long as my child doesn't lose her life. So when I returned to Alabama, I was homeless, me and my children, and I was sleeping in the floor. And I had a pity party. I went through depression. I was suicidal. And one day the Holy Spirit, I heard him speaking. He just said, are you going to continue to have a pity party? Are you going to continue to stay in this pit? Or are you going to get up and do something about it? And I decided, hey, I'm finna enroll in school. And I'm going to work my way back up. And he harassed me. He stalked me. I was scared. And I finally got my apartment in Alabama. And he was coming around the side of the building. And my cousins saw me. And they called the police. And he was after me for years. He was after me for years. And it was something that I done. If I would have just listened, if I would have slowed down, if I would have just prayed, I wouldn't have had to go through all that I went through. But I thank God that I survived it. I survived that.
I guess in your story, I don't know why I wasn't thinking that your children were. Did your children see him
Abusing me?
abusing?
Mm-hmm. Sometimes. Not every time, but yeah.
Does
I
that
watched it.
hurt them now?
Yes. My oldest daughter she's still damaged from it. My youngest one, not so much, but my oldest daughter, and when I met my husband, she was not happy. She just talked to him ugly. She had all kind of questions. She was like, you put your hands on my mom, I'm gonna do this and this to you. It was bad. She didn't like him for a long time because of what she saw, and it really affected her. And I apologized to her over and over and over, like, why was I not thinking about, I was thinking more about people telling me I was going to fail than protecting my own children.
Mm.
And they watched it. They watched it. Yeah.
We're going to let that guilt go today.
We are.
We're
going to let that
I
go.
thought this was for other people. This might be just for me. We just having this. Drop that bag. You didn't do it on purpose. It's not like you wanted your children to see you be beaten. Drop the bag. And the book thing, I'm right here. Right down the street. We're going to start working on the book. Just imagine God is calling you to write a book and you don't do it. And that one young lady who needed that book and you didn't do it. Let me show you this. Who blood on your hand. So we gonna write the book. We just gonna do it. This is a really heavy topic tonight.
It is
This is a very heavy, heavy topic tonight. We like to joke and laugh, but it's just not funny about it tonight. Um, there are a lot of people. You never know that lady and husband sitting next to you. They're smiling in church, but you don't know either he's being beat by her or she's being beat by him, and they're not saying anything. The person that you see is real closed mouth, can never participate, never comes around, is always rushed out of church. We need to investigate those things and be loving and kind to people so they'll feel like they can tell you. You say you don't really tell this, is just not being looked at strangely. But are people not kind? Do you feel like people are not kind to you?
As the reason why I don't tell this story, I just don't want people to feel like I'm attention seeking. And I've been told that several times. You're an attention seeker, and I'm really not. I've been giving attention even when I didn't want to give attention. You know, yeah, yeah. So I'm not attention seeking. I don't know. I don't want to hurt anybody from releasing the story. So that's what had me quiet for so long. And then I don't want people to be like, oh, she's just doing that for attention. Because what I've noticed a lot of times, and even on social media, when women speak out about domestic violence, they don't get too many likes. Or I'll hear somebody say, did you see what such and such post? Or did you see what's up? They just want some attention. So it makes me step back even more because I don't want to be seen as I just want some attention. But I know that I have a call to help young women. And I do it my own way. I just don't do it out loud or publicly. But even in my career, even at church, I can tell if a couple comes in and they come to the church, I can tell if that woman is being abused or not. I can tell if she's being controlled or manipulated. And I'll watch her, not that I'm trying to stare at them. And the men can pick it up that I know what they're doing. They can pick it up.
In this season of our life, because me and my prayer partners are reading a book called Experiencing God. And in the book, the pastor that writes the book says, when God gives you a call, you don't just jump and do it. When he gives you the call, you ask for instructions, then do it. You sit in my own way. And this, you don't even have to answer the question. Is it the way God wants you to do it?
It's not. It's a form of disobedience. And I just have to be real. And I'm going through a season in my life where I didn't know that I was out of the will of God as far as what he has told me to do and how he has told me to do it. And I'm just thinking I'm okay. I'm going along. So now I've rubbed some people the wrong way because I was doing it my way and not the way that God wants it to be done. But I've been in, I don't want to call it a cave, and I'm not using isolation as a bad term at this moment. But God is he's molding me because now I'm open to, well, God, how do you want me to do it? What is your will? My life is not my own. How can I help the next person? I'm in times I've been selfish. well, I want this house and I want this car and I want and I. And where was my prayer that said, God, what do you want from me?
My God.
How do you want me to do this? And even in the business, I keep getting prophesied. You're supposed to be a business owner. You're supposed to do, and I understand that. And I know that. And God has given me a strategy to do so. But it's not in everybody else's time. And they're like, you could be so further along, or you could be doing this, or you could be. But God, how does God want it? Because for many years, like I said, I've done it my way. In other years, I put a lot of people before me and I pushed them and made sure that they had. Now, God is saying, I'm changing your perspective. I'm changing your heart. I'm changing the way you do things. I'm even changing the reason why you even do it. And it's so powerful. It's so powerful. And all I have been doing is seeking God. And things have been fun. It's like when you put God first and you seek God, you don't even have to think about it. You know how we worry sometimes? How I'm gonna do this and what I'm gonna do next? And it just falls in place. That's how you know you in the will of God. That's how you know you seek God first, because it just happens. And I got a testimony. And I can't wait to share my testimony. But it's because I got in the very present. And it came from overseer. He started teaching on getting back to the altar. And then I got hurt. Like, whoo, I was really hurt. And I was still trying to push to go to church and push to go to church. And people were saying, why are you so tired? And why are you being lazy? And they don't know I was in severe pain. And I kept pushing, I kept pushing, I kept pushing. And it came from me wanting to do things my own way. And I don't mean to get off.
No, you right where you supposed to be.
Get
Don't
off
leave
track.
it.
Yeah.
Did my show.
That's right.
Did my show. You right where you need to be.
That's right. But just seek God. If you seek God, that marriage, that ministry, that business, your children, it's 2 weeks of my life. Because I said, God is my life, is not my life. It's yours. And you're gonna be glorified. And it's been wonderful. I have never been this happy in my entire life. And I just said, I've been doing it wrong for all these years. See God.
We're not gonna ask that question because I'm a person that has a ooga out to questions, and that might be my Achilles heel, that I need to give up a question sometimes. I do have one question though. Why do you think people that have been abused go back to their abusers?
There are many different reasons. The first time I went back to my abuser was, he told me he was about to die. He had this pity party, he had it playing out. He had started drinking when I left the first time, and he told me that he had a disease and he didn't have long to live. And I felt like it was my duty and obligation as his wife to go back and care for him. He just, woo! Like it was my duty to go back and care for him if something did happen. I didn't want, like you said, the blood on your hand. And so that guilt and the begging and so I went back. I went back. It got worse.
Wow.
I left again. I felt like I didn't have anything. He had made sure everything was stripped from me. So the second time it was money reasons, because I didn't want to keep living off other people or moving me and my kids from house to house. I was like, I can be unstable, but I don't want my kids to be unstable. but it doesn't work. If you unstable, your kids are unstable.
Amen.
So it was a learning process. So I went back, and it got worse.
Wow.
And every time I went back 4 times, and it got worse throughout. Stay away. There are several resources now that you can just go online and look for. Even if you have to stay in the shelter, at least you got your life. At least you got your health and your children. And you can get back on your feet. Like, you can do it again. You can do it by yourself. Yeah. I had to do it by myself.
I always wanted to ask that question, why they go back. And I guess because I've never been in that position. But when you start talking about a person who takes you away from your family and monopolizes your time and spend all this time, it sounds like somebody I used to be with.
Mm.
And I just, because I really didn't know what love was, I knew how to love my children, but I didn't know how I should be loved by a man because I've never seen it before. I didn't live with my father, and all of his wives, he didn't love the ones that I saw because he beat them. So that wasn't my estimation of love. And then I met my very first pastor, and him and Lady were married for 65 years before he died. And no matter what, they stayed together, 11 kids, everything. And I just couldn't connect the dots. I couldn't do it. So after all of this pain and trauma, how do you connect the dots and have this great marriage? Not saying you perfect, because we're not looking. God, what looks like perfection to God, man don't see it. Perfection to God looks so much different than because my blemishes, my gray hair, I'm missing a tooth on this side, but I might be perfect to God. But you had all this trauma, but you're loving a real man, a real provider, a great father, a great grandfather, a deacon at church. Help us.
Okay, so forgiveness is a big key into having a successful life and marriage. You have to forgive everybody who you felt wronged you. I don't know the type of audience that we have, but when I was young, I used to say, I'm going to go find him, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm going to find him when I get older, because you're going to pay for what you did to me. But what helped me and what blessed my life is forgiving everybody and everything that has ever happened to me. And my relationship with God. When you have that relationship with God and you're taught how to love God and love yourself, it becomes easy to love someone else. And the thing about, like I said, he allows me to be me. Now, when I'm wrong, he tells me I'm wrong, and I accept him because I honor him. I respect him. I'm loyal to my husband. I think the word of my husband, and he's just a laid back type of guy. So, a way to have a successful marriage is let that person be them. Let them be who they are. Forgive quick. Forgiveness. I keep going back to forgiveness. Woo. Forgive quick, because the enemy is going to send things that will upset you or try to build a wedge. Like, the most successful thing that I've learned that makes the enemy flee when it comes to your marriage is the quicker you forgive, the less time the enemy has to plot against your marriage.
That's good there, y'all.
The less time. So when I'm upset, I get my music, I cool off. If I have to sit in the car, if I have to stand out in front of the door, and I come back and I say, I'm sorry for what I done. I acknowledge my part. Even if I'm mad at him about something I feel back to him, and that made him, because my husband, he was stubborn when we first got together. You people don't see that, but um he's worked through that, just like I worked through my flaws. He worked through his, and we've been patient with one another. But I'll say, you know what, baby, I shouldn't have hollered like that, or I shouldn't have said that like that, or I shouldn't have responded the way I respond, because godly women, they don't respond that way. So that has helped our marriage a lot. And I don't blame him for what. Stop blaming. Woo. Stop blaming that man that you with now for something that your daddy didn't do, for something that your ex did not do, for something that your ex-husband didn't do.
Oh Lord, I need another.
Or your brother, or any man in your life, or your rapist, or your molester. Stop blaming the man that you are with now because he didn't do those things. Stop holding that person accountable for things that he did not do. That person shouldn't have to pay for somebody else wronging you. Like, that's what I had to learn. That's what made it successful for me and my husband. I can't blame him. He's not that man who done those things to me. He's a protector. He's a provider. He's consistent. He's loving. So we just have to do our part.
I needed something stronger than lemonade when she said that, y'all. I had to take a few sips. Yes, Lord. And when she said that, my mind started rolling back to church. You were hurt in that old church.
My God.
Don't come to this church,
amen,
with your old baggage and feeling like we gonna do what was done.
Ooh.
I just had to get that out my spirit. So when I go to sleep tonight, I know I accomplished what I came to accomplish.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Sis, that was good right there.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a whole nother time. I'm gonna steal that. I'm gonna steal that from you. Let you know, I'm gonna give you credit. But that's not topic. Good God Almighty.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess I wanted to, I'm gonna let you wrap it up tonight.
Right.
I want your last thoughts for somebody who's gonna need this. Tell them something. Whatever what's on your heart.
Listen. You are worth more. If you are experiencing domestic violence and you're being beaten and you're told you're less than, stop believing the lie. You are worth more than that. You can live again. You can be that. All young children have some type of dream when they're young. I want this white picket fence. I want this man to look like this. I want to be a princess. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. Whatever your dream was as a child, you can live. You can do that. You can make it happen. Like, you can get support. There are support groups. There are people who've been through what you are going through. And you don't have to stay in that situation. Other state. I got a restraining order. I didn't meet him by myself. I changed my number. I let the people around me know, hey, look out for this person. And do what you have to do. Pray. Ask God for his protection. And that's it. That's what I want to leave with you.
We're gonna say bye to the TikTok family. I'm glad you came.
Thank you.
I'm glad you breathed through. I know this was difficult for you. I know it was. I know it was. And I'm asking God tonight not let you wrestle with this. This was an opportunity for you to get free, even for a little guilt that you didn't know you were still holding. Because I'm good at masking stuff. I got the good church face. I do that well. I've learned to drop the bag. I don't care what time it is tonight. If you need me, call me.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
we want you to be free. And everybody who's listening, who's going to hear, who's going to see. And I want every person, I'm asking God, when they get a little snippet, that they will stop and listen to it all the way through. Go to Straight Talk Food for the Soul on my YouTube page. Check the whole interview out. I want to say I love everybody. Good night, good night, good night. Another episode of Straight Talk for the Food for the Soul. Love you guys. Have an amazing service tomorrow.
Good night.
Good night.